following program is an exclusive. The following program is an exclusive Disruption Networks production.
So you just bought your dream home, and now it's time to move. Let's face it, nobody likes to move. All the packing, unpacking, lifting, upstairs, downstairs, and broken everything, including your back. Let the professionals at EJA Moving Company take all the stress and pain out of your move. Competitively priced moving, relocation services, office moves, and complete packing and unpacking services. They work with everybody to make it simple and easy for you to move and relocate. Call EJA Moving Company at 315-335-0516. When it's time to relocate, have EJA Moving do all the work for you. Hit them up online, ejamoving.com.
Hey, Disruption Network. This is Mike Sacco, the general manager at Nye Volkswagen of Rome. If you don't know me by name, it's only because you have not received the best deal. There's only one reason to leave Utica, and that's to come see me in Rome and get the best deal on your next new, pre-owned, or certified VW. Mention that you heard this ad from Disruption Network and receive $250 off your next vehicle purchase. You'll know why our customers say, I love my Nye VW. Come see us at 5865 Rome Taberg Road in Rome, or visit us online at nyvwofrome.com.
Want to know what's going on at the D? Hit up DisruptionNetwork.net and check out our events calendar, brought to you by the Events Co. Find out about upcoming guests, special events, concerts, show schedules, community activities, and more. Get connected at DisruptionNetwork.net.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the baseline. Play ball!
What's going on, everybody? It's the Baseline. We're back with you. What's going on, SPG?
What is up, man? Mike here. There. Hey, what's up, everybody? What is going on? October chill in the air. It's Fall Classic time. Not exactly the Fall Classic that you and I had hoped for this season, as we had the Houston Astros advance to the World Series, winning the ALCS in 6 games over the New York Yankees. And in the NL, what a dominant performance by the Washington Nationals with the sweep over the St. Louis Cardinals to become NL champions, winning the NL pennant and advancing to the World Series. And it's already been an interesting World Series. We're only about a less than a game and a half into it. And what a performance by Washington yesterday, getting to Garrett Cole early. And Cole ended up pitching mediocre after having some time off, and they got to him early. Houston made a run at it, came back, and they held him off. Sean Doolittle coming in for the save, and the Washington Nationals are up in the Fall Classic, 1-0, and it is currently tied. They got to Verlander tonight, too, for 2 runs in the first inning.
Good for the Nationals.
Strasburg also giving up to Alex Bregman, finally getting a big hit. He'd been in a bit of a funk, as have a lot of the Houston Astros bats, which we'll get into a little bit later. But the World Series is underway. 1-0 Nationals in the series, and 2-2 in the 3rd inning. And we'll update you as we go here tonight.
Absolutely. We got a lot to talk about. Going to have a fun show tonight, I think. Talk about a little bit more than just baseball, maybe. Stick around for the 7th inning stretch later on. Sean and I are going to do something a little bit different. We're going to draft a football team.
It's World Series underway. Close to the end of baseball season. Close to full-blown football season as we head into pretty much into November here in another week. So yeah, we're going to do something different tonight. We're going to talk a little football too on top of it as it relates to baseball. There's a baseball tie-in, of course, here on the Baseline. Speaking of football, there are 2 football shows on this network, on Disruption Network. Great shows. You can catch the D-Line every Thursday night with your host, Chicken Mike O'Connor, and our friends Sil and Caleb. That show is, as I mentioned, every Thursday, and Rich Masucci has brought his football show, another great show on, I believe they do their show every Tuesday evening. So check it out. 2 football shows right in the middle of the thick of football season here, kind of coming up on the mid part of the season. And although we're talking about kind of winding down here in the championship, the World Series canvas has yet to be completed, but it's fall, man, and you can feel it in the air. It's not summer anymore.
It is not.
Especially not here in Central New York.
We are moving towards winter. And speaking of moving, big shout out to one of our sponsors, EJA Moving Company. If you need to get moving, you can contact EJA Moving Company. They're professional movers at 315-335-0516. They're competitively priced. Relocation services, office moves, complete packing and unpacking services. They'll work with everybody, and they'll make it simple for you. So hook up our boys if you need help moving. EJAmoving.com. When it's time to relocate, have EJA Moving do all the work for you.
Do it up.
What do you got for this?
You need something moves, call EJA Moving. This day in baseball history.
Obviously, it's going to be something World
Series. It is a good
related.
one. It's a really good World Series one.
It happened in the World Series.
October 23rd in, I believe it was 1993. Yes, 1993. Touch 'em all, Joe.
Was that today?
You'll never hit a bigger home run in your life.
What a great call. That is an iconic call. Iconic.
It is.
That's
Tom Cheek, I believe.
You get a chill.
Tom Cheek, the Blue Jays radio voice.
And sadly,
at the time,
we will never get that again. Ever. Not with the clowns that they have announcing. You know, I'm all for. I get that Joe Buck is iconic in a way.
I think I have come to dislike John Smoltz.
Oh, it's
way more than Joe Buck.
It's awful. It's egregious. I couldn't agree with you more. Here's the
He
deal.
makes Joe Buck seem tolerable.
Oh, man.
Maybe that's the strategy. Maybe that's what they're trying to do.
I don't know that that's possible.
Take the attention away from Joe Buck to get everybody's frustrations and in anger towards focus it on John Smoltz, and Joe Buck's just off to the side doing his thing. Did you see the shirt that the Yankees fan was wearing in the front row in I think it was game 6?
I did. Did you see Joe Buck's tweet?
I did. Where can I get one of these shirts?
Yes.
I'll tip my cap to that
The
response.
tip of the cap. Listen, here's the thing. What I was going to say is I get that Joe Buck is iconic. All right, he calls everything.
His dad
Jack,
was
for
iconic.
Sure. That's a great call
And
too.
Joe
The
Buck is
Jack
everywhere.
Buck, the wizard call.
Joe Buck is everywhere.
He's everywhere. He calls every single major sporting event that Fox carries. I get it. If they stuck to the script of the way that baseball is supposed to be called and let the lead guy do his thing, you might get a more iconic call. But John Smoltz just didn't let him talk. And I never thought I would be in a position saying I wish Joe Buck was talking more, but it's
That's
more
what I'm saying. That must be the strategy.
it's
I don't
more
know.
the over talking. There is no dead air, and I get that, in some circumstances in radio, dead air is no good. But that's not one of those circumstances. You can let the game play. Vin Scully let the game play. You watched the game and you heard him, but it was more poetic.
Yeah, baseball is conducive to that, kind of a dramatic silence here and there. Of course, you
gotta
don't
have
want
it.
a lot of dead air in this, especially in this day and age.
But
when
it's complete-
sponsorship time, and there's
let's
dollars to be had, no matter what you're saying.
Tom Verducci's down on the sidelines, or the sidelines. Listen to me. We're on
It
a
is
show
football
called The
season,
Baseline.
isn't it?
I called it the sidelines again. I got football in the brain. But Tom Verducci's down on the baseline interviewing the manager in the middle of the 3rd inning. Well, we got to cut to Ken Rosenthal. He's with Derek Jeter's grandmother. And, no. Let the guy, let the 2 guys or 3 guys in the booth call it. And, maybe for the 7th inning stretch or something, you cut to somebody. I don't know. I don't get it. That's my only complaint with Joe Buck this year is that maybe he didn't talk enough, because I noticed that there's for a walk-off homer.
Who would have thought?
For a walk-off homer in the ALCS, you would think that you could get a more iconic call, especially when we're talking about Joe Buck or Joe Carter's home run and how iconic of a call that is. Like, gives you chills, and that's spur of the moment. It's not written down prior to the game. It doesn't sound scripted. So that's it. We're going to talk.
So Joe
more about
Buck,
the
you're not the worst. John Smoltz is.
We're going to talk more about the ALCS. I promise you that.
Yes, indeed, we will.
Yeah, a lot of stuff going around Major League Baseball right now. There are some rumors. We're going to get to these in a minute. Some rumors that Major League Baseball is going to be, in fact, trimming down
Contracting the minors.
the minor league system, which could be in preparation for the CBA coming up. Who knows? Service time might be a little bit different, and they're going to be bringing these players up at 19 and 20. When you look at a guy like Juan Soto, who might be the most polished 20-year-old we have ever seen in the game's history, this kid is a beast.
Yes, he hit the train in left center field yesterday. I'm sure you
Yes.
saw that home run.
The kid's a
Opposite
beast.
field. I mean, he's a left-handed hitter, and he hit the train. If you've seen the Astros ballpark, Minute Maid Park,
I have.
there is a train just mounted up, decorative train mounted up in deep left center field, and he hit the train. And that's just one of the hits he had. He also had a double, I believe, an RBI double, and at least one more hit. I'm pretty sure he had 3 hits. Heck of a young talent, Juan Soto is. And he's got some swagger to him, too.
Well,
He's got some serious swagger to
he
him.
keeps it up, he's going to find himself out of the baseline. I'm going to tell you that right now. There's kids watching, Juan. Kids. But that being said, Juan Soto is a beast, and he's 20 years old. And Fernando Tatis Jr. was a stud at the beginning of the year, and Ronald Acuna Jr. and Gleyber Torres is only 22. I mean, these guys are coming up and having impactful seasons. If they're contracting the minor leagues, you're going to see more of these guys make it. But I feel sorry for some of the guys like a Mike Piazza. This could cause us to miss out on a Mike Piazza, 64th rounder who's going to go toil in the bus leagues for a little while until people realize that he can crack shots.
Yeah.
You know? We might miss out on those guys. But Major League Baseball thinking about contracting, I think it was 60-something teams. I'll get that up in a second. Or Dave. Dave's out there. Hi, Dave. Dave, look that up.
Dave did chime in with a comment, too. He said, too bad Caleb from the D-line lost all credibility because he trash-talked Bo Jackson.
How are you going to trash talk, Bo? I didn't hear.
I didn't. I might have to go back and listen.
I will reserve judgment. And now you're intriguing me on watching.
You don't
the
trash
D-line.
talk Bo Jackson.
Yeah,
I don't care.
One of the two football.
Neither
podcasts on
sport.
the D.
You do not trash talk Bo Jackson.
No, neither sport.
So we may have to take that up with Caleb
for sure. Bo Jackson, you can't trash talk Bo Jackson.
Bo knows. I mean, come on.
Bo does know. Talking about a guy that would have been in the Hall of Fame at both sports. But Dave, check that minor league, the number of minor league teams that are on the proposed chopping block for us. Also, going around Major League Baseball, we talked about managers last show and the managerial
changes.
Carousel, and we placed some guys in some places, and we're 2 for 2 right now. Joe Madden officially becoming, after 31 years in the organization before leaving for Tampa, and then in the middle, stopping over in Chicago.
Yeah, and I think that was the obvious
now he's back
call.
with the Angels.
I mean, that was the most obvious call with his history
42
being
teams.
with the Angels. But yeah, still Madden ends up with the Angels, and then David Ross
we called
today
that one too.
hired as manager of the Chicago Cubs, which I think, I mean, that might not be a long shot hire for them, but I think that one was not as obvious as figuring Madden was going to end up with the Angels, and I think it's a great hire too. By the way, I really like the idea of bringing him back.
David Ross?
Yeah, I mean, look how much
He's
he
iconic
meant.
in Chicago right now.
Look
they
how
love
much
him.
he meant to that team.
They love him.
Not only in the clubhouse, but
We are in
clutch
an
hits, laying it all on the line for his team, going out on top with the Cubs. And, there's a bit of a risk there with the limited history of managing, but he's been kind of a player manager for years already.
Yeah, I get that. The game is a little bit different now. And I'm not saying that David Ross doesn't step in. Listen, this is the trend.
Oh, look at Aaron Boone.
A.J. Hinch and Aaron Boone. And, I mean, go across the league. Craig Counsell.
Potentially Carlos Beltran coming up as well.
I'll give you another guy to look out for in a couple of years when he's done spending his money and enjoyed retirement for a few years.
Joe
A
Mauer.
guy like Joe Mauer.
I already knew who you were going to say.
Absolutely. Joe Mauer's a guy. All these old catchers. But Carlos Beltran, potentially the leader in the clubhouse for the Mets right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great hire, too, because people generally gravitate towards them. And we are not, to borrow a football term here, we're not in an X's and O's style of baseball any longer. We are in an analytics-driven world. And managers, take their cues from people up top. There's guys with formulas and notebooks and explaining how this gets done. Otherwise, you cannot explain this year's postseason without telling me that it's all analytics, because guys are getting pulled left and right when you wouldn't ever expect it, because it's all matchups driven.
Yeah, look, what was it, Game 2, I believe, right? Game 1 or Game 2 of the ALCS, Paxton's first outing.
So
he got pulled after just a couple innings.
Yeah, really, the most important thing in terms of a manager right now is player management. And I know that sounds obvious. I know that sounds really kind of vague, but it's being a people guy. It seems to be the younger people guys that want to get in, step in, and win, and they're listening to their analytics team. Houston, the New York Yankees, Houston, you're talking about the best analytics teams going probably, amongst them. Forward-thinking
Sure,
guys.
you've got Oakland in that
Houston is
mix.
huge. Oakland is in that mix. Tampa Bay is
another one.
They do a lot with a little. There's teams out there that are completely analytics driven. And that's what that guy has to do. That's what that manager has to do. He has to be the guy that takes the cues, absorbs them. What better than a catcher to remember matchups and go over data with someone, and here's how we're going to pitch this guy and break it down. What better than a catcher? So he's got to be a good face for the organization, which David Ross is. He's got to be loved by the players, which David Ross is.
Absolutely.
And he's got to take cues from up above, which we failed to see yet. Now the X's and O's does come into play in the heat of the moment, and you're the manager.
You know what it
gotta know how to
reminds
do,
me of? It reminds me of right after Joe Girardi retired and became a manager with the Marlins.
And one manager of the year.
Reminds me a lot of what happened there.
Sure.
Former Chicago Cubs catcher, clubhouse leader type, at the time as a player, and not a star player, but a guy that went out there and was as scrappy as you can get, and a darn good mind behind the plate calling a game too. So it kind of reminds me of that hire, and I like it.
Caught a perfect game, caught World Series, World Series rings.
Yeah, and you mentioned Hinch. Hinch was another catcher.
He was manager of the year his second year in Florida, first year in Florida. Manager of the year. Joe Girardi can manage. I've been critical of Joe Girardi in the past.
Where does Girardi end up now?
Well, I think Joe Girardi eventually ends up in Philadelphia. I think he's well respected enough to go in there and manage some of the heads in that clubhouse. I don't think that the notebook maybe will be that big of a detractor in there, because the history with the Phillies over the last few years has been a lack of discipline. Joe Girardi is not a lack of discipline. That is full-on discipline. He is, it's just the way that he is. He's by the book. And so I think that could benefit that team the most. I think that Joe Girardi is the perfect fit in Philadelphia. And I think Beltran ends up being the manager of the Mets. And I'll tell you, Mike Matheny, I think, slides over from being the St. Louis manager. I think he stays in state, and he slides over and he becomes the Kansas City Royals manager.
Another one to keep an eye on, too, is we'll see if Buck Showalter ends up anywhere this offseason.
San Diego.
He's been linked to San Diego. He's also been linked to Philly as well. And that's another guy that there is no lack of discipline.
No,
Buck Showalter is your
I think
manager.
that's a different circumstance.
I do, too. And I think you mentioned San Diego. He's more of a fit for San Diego.
He successfully manages younger people, and he's proven that he can successfully manage Manny Machado.
And Manny Machado wants him.
Well, he's advocating for him. Why wouldn't you? And I think of all the shots that Buck has ever got in the game, I think that San Diego job would be the most fair shake that Buck Showalter ever got. I think that he could do wondrous things with that team. If they go out and they get a pitcher, let's say they get a Garrett Cole. The rumor is that Garrett Cole, from his teammates apparently, and who knows how good rumors are, if he goes out and wins a Cy Young and wins a World Series this year, who's to say he doesn't go back with Houston and they don't pony up the money? Who's to say he doesn't end up in New York? Well, although I don't think that the Yankees would be the favorite. They say he's going to a California team. Why couldn't he go to San Diego? San Diego's got a couple young studs coming up.
I'll tell you another team to keep an eye on in California is the Los Angeles Angels.
For sure.
Looking to get some support for poor Mike Trout out there. I say poor Mike Trout. I know he's got a $450 million contract, so I guess I don't feel too terrible for him.
I don't see the Padres spending the money, but I definitely see after hiring Madden. After going and hiring Madden, now that is a more forward-thinking managerial approach. That's like a win now type thing. You get Buck, that's develop my young talent, Buck. Develop my talent, and let's see what we can do.
Yeah, and then 5-6 years down the line.
Joe Madden, you spent $400 million on Trout. You got Ohtani. You're tied up in Justin Upton. The only solution in L.A. after all of that, and you go get Madden, is to spend more. You got to be the highest salaried team in Major League Baseball at that point in time, because you're already going to be. You're already going to be really close. You're going to be paying the luxury tax. If you're the Angels, you got to go all in on everybody and try to build yourself a really powerful team around the best player in the game.
And you have to go hard after more international talent, too. I mean, you're likely not going to get another Ohtani anytime soon. He's looks like a star player, and he's coming back from Tommy John, too. It's easy to forget that. He's a two-way guy, and we'll see how much pitching he does next year. But they need to go out and get any help they can get for Trout. And yeah, you said hiring Madden, I think is kind of proof that they're looking to become a contender rather than slowly kind of flounder and try to build up some of that farm system, because it's a weak farm system too. So they their backs are against the wall a little bit, and it's funny saying that when you have the best player in the game, probably of our generation, on your roster. But it's one of those things where they really are not going to have any choice other than to spend, even though
That is
they've got some pretty monster contracts already.
That's the only recourse. You got to spend more. You're not going to offload any of those contracts. You're just going to sink with the best player in the. You just can't do that to him. You got to get some pitching there. You've got to do it. What else we got? The Hank Aaron Awards were given out today.
Yeah, we got awards coming in already.
Hank Aaron Awards given out today. Hank Aaron Award is given annually to the best hitter in each league. This year, as no surprise, even though they both got hurt with about a month left to go in the season, Mike Trout and Christian Yelich were given the Hank Aaron Awards.
No surprise there.
No.
MVPs right there.
That's right. So I think that they both win the MVP based on that.
To clarify, those are not the MVP awards.
No, they are not.
But those are MVP quality.
And they are separate from the Writers' Awards that everybody is so familiar with. The Baseball Writers Awards, MVP and Manager of the Year and Rookie of the Year, separate from that. But the Hank Aaron Award is a pretty good litmus test of who the best hitters were in each league. And this year, given out to Mike Trout and Christian Yelich. And you might be hearing Mike Trout and Christian Yelich later on in the seventh inning stretch, where we're going to put together an ideal football team. You think about that.
Dave did answer your question on the minor league teams, too. He says that Major League Baseball could contract by as many as 42 teams, minor league baseball, that is, after the 2020 season. So that's not happening this offseason, but you could see as many as 42 teams be eliminated from minor league baseball. And that lines up even more so with the CBA than I would have previously expected if they're looking to do it this season. So, yeah, I think that is clearly maybe not a negotiating tactic, but it is being brought up now because it's an important issue coming into the collective bargaining agreement negotiations. We could seriously see a strike here. We could see a work stoppage.
I don't doubt
realistically here, within a year, a little over a year from now, we could see one. Hope we don't. I hope things get worked out, but there's going to have to be some compromises made, as there always are in these type of labor negotiations.
Yes, but we're going to see a stoppage. We've been calling it for 2 seasons now, and it's still 2 seasons away. I think that we're going to see a stoppage.
I hope not, but
I hope not too. I hope it's in the off season, because it's it doesn't stop at game 162. They don't stop working. So I mean, they could potentially have a work stoppage
in the off season.
Right. And not cost them any games. Could cost them some things logistically, but not as big of a deal as losing games. We don't want to see another 94. 94 crippled the sport. Lost.
I don't want to see a year stolen from Mike Trout and Christian Yelich, the guys that we just named.
No, we almost saw
all these guys. I mean, that would be the end of some of these guys that are, like your Justin Verlanders right now, who are still, top end ace pitchers. Scherzer, those guys. I mean, that would pretty much be the end of their career, you would think, as an ace. I mean, can you skip a year when you're 37 years old and come back and still be that guy? Maybe. I don't know. These guys are ridiculous. But you got to kind of think about that kind of stuff. If there are games missed, it's not just a missed season. It is a missed year of some legendary careers, and it would be a shame to lose any games to a work stoppage. And
totally agree.
If there has to be a labor stoppage, a work stoppage, I hope it is in the off season, and I hope they can sort some of these details out, because there are some pretty important issues that need to be settled here. Service time being one of the big ones that we already mentioned earlier in the show.
Yeah, let the kids play. It's best for the game.
Look how fun it is. You got
way better.
You got Juan Soto. We already mentioned Soto. And Gleyber Torres, 10 RBIs in the postseason, still is the league leader, tied with Soto, I think.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys, that is the exciting part of the game, is seeing these young players come up. When I was a kid, Ken Griffey Jr., I mean, how excited I was when he came up. Of course, I was a Yankees fan, but there being a
He's good, right?
a 19-year-old kid coming up and wearing his hat backwards and stuff, that's the type of stuff that really got me excited about it, and it expanded my interest beyond just being a Yankee fan, and I hope that they can sort some of this stuff out. And yeah, you get your Acuñas and you get your Sotos and Torreses, and a lot of these elite young guys are up early, but imagine how much more of that could potentially happen if these guys weren't stuck in the minors to kind of save them from becoming free agents a year earlier, 2 years earlier than they would if you brought them up when they can contribute when they're 19 years old.
SPG, talking about all these young players. I want to give a little bit of time here to a player on his way out. There are 18 men in the history of the game with 3,000 strikeouts. Justin Verlander just became the 18th. There are only 15 guys in the history of the game with more strikeouts than CC Sabathia. 3,093 on his way out. In the ALCS, did get hurt, unfortunately. Suffered a separated shoulder, I believe, was the official diagnosis. Tough to see him go out that way, but he literally left everything on the mound. 19-year career.
Yeah, it was tough to see that be the end for CC for sure. And a Hall of Famer, no doubt about it. We'll see you in Cooperstown, CC, for sure.
The list of guys all time with 250 wins and 3,000 strikeouts, it's a short one. And the only guys that aren't in, Clemens and Schilling. And now CC. So CC's an undoubted Hall of Famer. The list of lefties that have done it, 3.
Yeah, you throw the left-handedness on top of everything else, and it really amplifies his accomplishments for sure.
3.
As you mentioned, accomplished player and a great teammate too. And he's going to be a big loss for that clubhouse too. What a leader for that team, and a guy who would do anything for his teammate to stand up and support his guys. Last year, the final start he made of the 2018 season, he ends up hitting a Tampa Bay player to stick up for one of his teammates that had been plunked an inning prior, and he gets ejected from the game when he was, I think, 1 or 2 outs away from a pretty significant financial bonus.
$500,000.
$500,000, $500,000. And he does it anyway to stick up for his teammate. And good on the Yankees. They give him the bonus anyways, but that goes to show you, he's willing to stand up for his teammates. He's got their back, and that is a major loss, more so in the clubhouse than it is with what his contributions have been on the mound. In the last year or so, still a solid pitcher, and
you might see him get a new career in the 7th inning stretch. Who knows? Is CC a worthy football player? Who knows? Stick around.
He's an obvious candidate to put on our football team of baseball players later.
Yeah, 6'6", 300 pounds. That'll do it for you. But tip of the cap, as always, CC Sabathia, man. Awesome career. Can't wait to see you in a Yankees cap in Cooperstown. 5 years from now, hopefully. Because I think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Anyway, moving on. Let's get it over with. We talk a little Yanks Astros here.
We gotta
eat our
post-mortem
as Yankee fans should. Speaking of Yankee fans, inexcusable some of the stuff coming out of
Agreed.
Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, and we'll get more into that in our
we will
infamous or famous, whichever way you want to look at it, out of the baseline segment later. We might have a little or a big something to discuss about the Houston Astros being out of the baseline too.
Yeah. You know what the Houston Astros weren't? They were not an offensive juggernaut. What I've read in the last few days, and this is Sports Illustrated wrote a story on how the Yankees' biggest flaw was that they didn't go out and acquire an ace starting pitcher. That was their biggest flaw. You saw what they did against Minnesota. Minnesota came in as a vaunted offense, set the home run record. Everybody up and down that lineup had 20 home runs. The Yankees shut them down. What could be your eventual world champion Houston Astros lineup managed to muster 179 with a 281 on base.
Yeah, that is worth mentioning.
They slugged 318. The Yankees outslugged, got on base more, had a higher OPS, obviously, than the Astros did in that series.
That is worth mentioning.
The Astros struck out 54 times in that series.
You look at the Astros, and rightfully so. I mean, we're not talking. We're talking a small sample size, but a really important.
That's a big
slice
sample
of
size.
It's a small slice.
Big deal.
It's a pretty big deal.
Yes.
But when you have Garrett Cole and Verlander and those guys on the mound, you can still win a series like that.
That did not cost the Yankees. Leaving 50 runners on base against Verlander and Cole and the likes.
Absolutely.
That's what cost the Yankees this series.
Both teams left a lot of guys on base.
But
Houston, in this postseason, Houston's OPS is 596. That is the third worst in 50 years.
Their OPS was 600 in this series.
Of a team in the World Series.
So they outperformed.
50 years, that is the third worst OPS of a team in the postseason that made it to the World Series. And while I agree that was not the reason the Yankees lost, but I will say, I will throw this in there. You have to go into Game 6 with a bullpen game. If you maybe had a Dallas Keuchel, maybe not, maybe the tides are turned a little bit in that game and Houston doesn't get out to that 3-0 lead or whatever it was in Game 6. Maybe not.
I just don't know.
But it potentially comes down to that one game.
I mean, the series came down to plays.
Yeah,
a matter
defense,
of plays at bats.
As much as we touted defense in the Minnesota series, that our last show, I think we said the word defense probably 100 times. Exaggerated, but a lot. We focused on that, and not just the Yankees, but there were some extremely important defensive plays made in that Minnesota series, whether it was Judge, whether it was Torres. There were some run-saving, Urshela, in the Minnesota series, there were some run-saving plays. And in the ALCS, it was the opposite. It was critical error after critical error, and
Gary Sanchez.
You're right. If with that pitching staff, the existing pitching staff that they have now, if they didn't just boot balls left and right, who knows? Maybe we're talking about going to a Game 7. And sure, you still would have had to have beaten Cole, but who knows? It's just one of those things. That's baseball, Susan, and now the Astros are in the World Series against the Washington Nationals with their first ever World Series appearance, including the Montreal Expos.
Les Expos.
So we'll see how it goes. I do have to mention tonight, you mentioned Justin Verlander when we were talking about CC with the 300 or 3,000 strikeout club and all that. He actually set a record tonight during tonight's game. He is now the all-time leader in postseason strikeouts, surpassing another guy we mentioned,
John Smoltz.
John Smoltz.
Yeah.
So sorry, John Smoltz. Verlander just took your title.
The side is retired.
So, that being said,
Game 2 still, by the way, 2-2, bottom of the fourth inning.
I just wanted to get that out there, that for all the Yankee haters out there and Sports Illustrated, I couldn't believe what I was reading. That pitching did not cost the Yankees that series. Were there pitches that they want back? But yeah, that's baseball. Were there home runs hit? Yeah, it was the Astros. Jose Altuve beat the Yankees. That's
another MVP, another MVP quality player.
Yeah,
another one on the Astros.
Michael Brantley, Alex Bregman. Alex Bregman hit 167 for the series, but he got on base a ton, walked a ton. Jose Altuve walked a ton. That's what separated it. as they work the counts.
George Springer's overall numbers aren't great, but I tell you, that guy is clutch. He comes up with clutch hits.
There's no doubt. The better team won that series. They were a more complete team going in.
Yeah, and that's...
I didn't think that they would win. I honestly thought that the Yankees had a little mojo going into the playoffs. And coming out of that Minnesota series where they look like a full head of steam, and they were able to line up their pitching staff the way that they wanted it going into that Houston series because Houston took a while with Tampa Bay. I just thought that the Yankees had it going. But obviously Houston was the more complete team, and they won.
Houston is
it's
they're
not due
built,
to some blatant glaring problem by the Yankees.
Built for October.
They are,
and that's something I've been saying for months coming out of the trade deadline, and then them picking up Greinke. Not that Greinke was really a dominant force or has been in this postseason, but just the fact that this team that was already stacked was adding pieces like that. They built this team for October, and Hinch has that experience now. He's won a championship. He's lost a championship. And here he is in another one. He's got that experience. He has been there. And that is another advantage that this team had, the Houston Astros had over the Yankees. So, you hope it's a learning experience for Aaron Boone and for a lot of these young guys. ALCS again for a lot of these guys that are on the roster that have been for a few years. But you have to figure that as tough of a loss that is, especially in Game 6 with a game-winning walk-off home run against you, when you get the adrenaline of DJ LeMahieu coming out and tying that game with one out in the ninth inning, that got me up jumping around my living room, admittedly. And just the deflation of that home run was really tough. But the wound is fresh. It's still open, and you really have to kind of look forward, and there's opportunity here for the Yankees. There is a great young core. There's a lot of questions. You have to wonder what they're going to do with guys like Didi, for one. Is Brett Gardner going to be back after having the best year he's ever had after being on the Yankees for over a decade? Is Gardner coming back? Do they find somebody who is willing to take the Giancarlo Stanton contract? I highly doubt it, without them having to dump a ton of money into paying some of that deal. But there are question marks here, and they need some pitching. There's no doubt about it. There will be some pitching available. So we'll see how much they're willing to spend, because they're going to have some decent ones to choose from, and some superstars likely on the market, including Garrett Cole and potentially and likely Steven Strasburg, tonight's starter for the Washington Nationals in Game 2 of the World Series, can opt out of his deal, and he would be smart to do that after this if he can come out of this World Series healthy. So, yeah, there's some constants. There's some great young talent on this roster. Gleyber Torres is proving to be a franchise player. Urshela was a big, bright spot. And DJ LeMahieu, of course, what a pickup. So, some questions, but I think overall, you have to hope that they take this experience, and Aaron Boone being a big part of that. Aaron Boone getting this experience as well, not just the players. You have to hope that, with some additions and with another year under their belt of wanting it even more, the first decade, the New York Yankees haven't been to a World Series since, I believe 1910. It's at 100 years. Pretty crazy. So, yeah. That ends the Yankees' 2019 season, and it's going to be a wild ride this offseason to see what happens and to see what free agents they go chasing after. What do you think? You think they're going to go after a Strasburg? You think they go after a Zach Wheeler, potentially? Not that he's a game-changing ace, but solid addition to your starting rotation.
No, I think Strasburg, like you said, if he can get through this postseason and looking dominant and healthy, I think that Strasburg would be more a main candidate there. Like I say, I think Garrett Cole's going west. I think he's going to the Angels. Just like Dave checking in here. He says Garrett Cole to the LA Angels. I think so, just like you said earlier.
Yeah, when we were talking the whole Mike Trout, give Mike Trout some help.
Yeah, I think that's the obvious destination for Cole right now is the Angels.
But I think Strasburg is
a good fit.
Good fit for the Yankees, potentially.
I do, but I mean, there's other guys coming. That's what they always say. The Yankees might look for internal options. Who knows? They are of the frugal mindset.
Davy Garcia, a year older. Does he break camp with the team?
Yeah,
I doubt it with the service time issues, but I think I would almost guarantee, barring injury, you see Davy Garcia in the Bronx at some point next summer, whether that be early summer or late summer. It'll probably all depend on what free agents they can pick up, what they target.
The most important thing to watch with the Yankees in terms of what they're going to spend on pitching is the Domingo Germán situation. As soon as we have a little more light shed on that, what's going to go on, if he's going to come back, how long he's got to sit out, then we'll see.
I think at this point you just pretty much write him off, and then if something happens where he rejoins your organization, then you take that for what it's worth. But at this point,
I hope he's out. I hope he doesn't.
Yeah, at this point, I would just completely 100% plan to be without him.
Yes.
Not necessarily severing ties completely, but just plan should be there's not going to be any Domingo Germán with the Yankees at the beginning of next season. But that can change. That can certainly change.
You're out of the baseline.
Out of here, Domingo Germán. Get out. What's the score of the game?
It is 2-2 in the bottom of the fourth. The Astros have a guy on second base, though, right now. That would be Yordan Alvarez on second base with 2 outs and Robinson Chirinos at the plate. Shaping up to be a good finish in that one. It's early still. It's the fourth inning, but if last night's game was any indication, this is going to come down to the wire too, and should be a good finish.
It's really hard to come into a series, and this is my really only my take on the World Series here. The only take I have.
Well, we got to get one more take. We got to give our prediction. I know that's we're a game into it, so I guess we'll. Well,
if we
have to take that into account.
If we were handicapping it anyway coming in, I would think that the handicap would be one game anyway for Washington, right? I mean, wouldn't you agree? There's a 1-game handicap.
Yeah, I would say so.
You know why you would agree that? Because it's so incredibly hard to come into a series like this as the Washington Nationals be parading Strasburg, Scherzer, Corbin, Anibal Sanchez on another planet.
And how about Corbin coming in for an inning yesterday?
And you come in with the second best rotation. That's hard to do. You come in as the dog with Scherzer, Strasburg, Corbin, and like I say, Sanchez has been on another level in the playoffs. You come in as the underdog in this series with Soto, Rendon, Zimmerman. I mean, it's not exactly like they're the 69 Miracle Mets here. And they came in as the dog. And I think that's gonna fire these boys up.
It looks like it's fired Soto up, that's for sure.
So, but the bullpen there scares me. In those late games, I see how the Houston Astros grind out at bats in a 6-game series. I watched how they just grind out and work at bats, and one of them's going to beat you.
I'll tell you what, though, the Houston bullpen, although much better on paper, had a statistically a better season. They're beatable too. I mean, you look at Osuna giving up that home run to LeMahieu in the 9th inning in Game 6, and you look at some of these other scenarios where they might have given up some runs. Game 1, I know it almost kind of turned into garbage time. Game 1 of the ALCS when the Yankees won 7-0, but the bullpen and the relief pitching that came in during that game did not set the world on fire by any means. So, agreed. Definitely advantage for Houston there. But props to Sean Doolittle last night, though, for a big save, a 4-out save, I believe. he had a pretty good season, went down with an injury, and just was not the same for 2 months, and really lost that job unofficially. They never announced he was removed from the role, but you saw Hudson saving a lot of games over the
interesting
September
deployment
stretch.
of Corbin.
When they were, I mean, it's not like they had a humongous lead in the division. I mean, these were critical games, and they had to put Hudson in there, and Hudson did a good job too. But yeah, if they have Sean Doolittle back to being Sean Doolittle full strength, then that eases the concerns about any, at least as far as the closer role goes for Washington. And Hudson can be a solid setup guy, but yeah, absolutely. I mean, it can happen at any time at this point in the season when you're down to the last couple games. I don't care how good of a bullpen you have. We even saw it with the Yankees a little bit in the ALCS. There can be a chink in that armor. There can be a weakness, an Achilles heel there somewhere, because you're talking the best of the best now in almost every case. The best lineups, the best pitching staffs, and usually the best bullpens, in the Final Four, the ALCS and the NLCS.
Flipped, has it not? For the longest time, the bullpen was the most important piece going into October. And now it's having that 3-headed or 2-headed monster in your rotation.
And it's evolved too, where
because the bullpen's still important, but it plays a way different role.
And that 2-3-headed monster you have at the top end in your starting rotation,
and then you have nothing.
They also can be your bullpen if you look at what the Washington Nationals are doing. Yeah. Scherzer and Strasburg.
Well, that too.
in the NLDS.
In the NLDS. Hey, they got it done.
I mean, it is.
See that
strategies
in the
are evolving
until later, maybe game 6, game 7 when it's crunch time. It's an elimination game.
Right.
I don't see that happening in the World Series.
You did see Corbin, at least with Corbin for an inning.
Yeah,
the other day.
Corbin, on the other hand, I think that's an effective deployment of your best lefty on your team. It's the best lefty on your team. It's an effective deployment. When he's not going to pitch, he's not giving you 7. It's not what you're asking him for.
And even
give me an out.
A few years ago, too.
He's pitching anyway.
Who would have even thought that the concept of a Game 6 ALCS game, bullpen game versus bullpen game, both teams, would have even been an option 5 years ago. At that point, you throw your 4th starter in there and you try to get him to go 5 innings with that old school strategy.
Last year when it started with the opener? How about last year? Would you have ever predicted that it would have happened in the ALCS by both teams? That's just last year. And the mentality had already changed.
Right.
It wasn't as if that was exotic to us.
Like I said,
it had already changed.
You figure.
We still wouldn't.
With thinking, even, I say 5 years, but you're right. Maybe even 2 years ago, 3 years ago, you just would assume that the strategy in a game like that would be, you put J Happ out there, for example.
4 games.
Or, if CeCe hadn't gotten hurt, you put CeCe out there and you try to get 5 innings out of him. Now it's we got a guy who's going to go out, throw 1 inning or 2 innings, bullpen the rest of the way, and that's it.
Sure, but so look at those guys.
So strategy is evolving.
Look,
for sure.
When Tampa Bay was doing it, and they could bring out Nick Anderson for 2 innings.
What a season he had!
Okay,
too.
you can bring out a guy like Ryan Stanek for an inning, and then they got traded for each other, so I can't really use them. But guys like that who are uber effective. Chad Green, there's another guy. He's a Yankee, uber effective for 1 or 2 innings, and can go and throw hard. And you just parade those guys. Let me ask you something. Is that if they're going to do that for 7 innings and then use their typical bridge to their closer, no matter what team we're talking about, they're going to try to squeeze out 7 innings out of the front end of their bullpen and then use Britton and Chapman at the end, just like a typical game. And they're going to get their starters innings out of all those relievers who are potentially on fire. You want to throw J Happ against them? You want to throw your 4th starter against them that day? And risk that? Yeah, sure, the bullpen day can blow up. And we've seen it blow up. But it can also go like ace quality. They can throw aces at you every single inning. Do you want to throw a guy out there with a 5 ERA? Probably not.
That's the thing. Add up the ERA.
Fire with fire.
Of any bullpen pitchers you would bring in a league championship series, Game 6. Add them up. 1-2 innings each for the first 5 innings. Their ERA is going to be lower than a J Happ.
Yeah.
Why not do it?
I agree. So do you want you got to fight fire with fire in that case. So the mentality had to evolve really, really quick because a lot of these teams are realizing that by parading, and this just doesn't go for the postseason, but for the entire regular season, a lot of these teams are out there and they're now realizing that parading a fourth and fifth starter who are borderline major leaguers in some cases or very young talents that haven't really evolved yet, parading these guys out there and trying to fight against Tampa Bay's bullpen squad is probably not going to be successful going forward. Nobody's perfected it yet, but they're going to. There's going to be a team out there, might be Tampa Bay, might be Oakland, but there's going to be a team that doesn't carry any starters. None.
Everybody pitches.
Everybody pitches when they pitch. just like American Legion ball, just like high school baseball. Sure, you got your stud starters, okay, and those you're going to throw Garrett Cole in his 7-inning burst, 8-inning burst,
And your Blake Snell,
because that's
like
when
the
he's
Rays
effective, right? That's the way that Garrett Cole is most effective for your roster. But they're going to maximize. Garrett Cole's going to get 25 innings a week, and they're going to spend him how they're going to spend him. And if it's most effective for him to make 3 8-inning starts, then that's the way he's going to do it. And if it's most effective for a guy to come out 20 innings a week out of the bullpen, they're going to do it that way. It's coming. It's evolved so quick. It is going at an exponential rate the way that they are utilizing the back half of that roster, 13 guys, 12 guys. They're going to start carrying 14 pitchers, and one of those 14 pitchers is going to be a Michael Lorenzen type or a Shohei Ohtani type.
Yeah, he's your backup center fielder, too.
McKay. Brendan McKay
of the Tampa Bay Rays.
All right.
McKay the Ray.
Going to be guys that can just do lots of things on the field. They can play the outfield. They can play first base. They can come in and pitch an inning. You're going to see a lot of those guys start to stick around because now instead of carrying 13 pitchers, you can carry 14. And the guy's a viable hitter too. Baseball's changing. It's a changing.
Michael Lorenzen, another name you might hear later on in the show.
You know what we got to do? I'm just going to call it because we just did it.
What's the haps on the haps?
Debating bringing in J Happ against a bullpen game. That's the haps on the haps. J Happ is home undoubtedly, upset from last week's loss to the Houston Astros. I'm sure that he's got a couple rounds of golf in by now.
I was going to say he's probably in the Caribbean by now.
And I don't know where Ian Happ is.
He's probably in the Caribbean or the Arizona Fall League.
The California Penal League. And that's the haps on the haps.
What's the haps on the haps?
It's time for the 7th inning stretch, SPG. What do you think?
It's time. It's time for a crossover. Crossover.
It's time for the 7th inning stretch.
Seventh inning stretch.
So it's almost November. The World Series, it's still the beginning stages of it, potentially. But you know what? It's football season too.
Oh, a flag does come in.
And you know, this could be a shout out to Caleb too for in honor of two-way player Bo Jackson, one of the most talented athletes to ever walk this planet. Let's make Bo Jackson our head coach. We're going to draft a football team of baseball players. So we're going to tell you, we're going to give you a tight end, a couple receivers, running back, a fullback.
Neon Dion.
Quarterback, of course.
We're going to give you a couple of those.
We're going to give you a left tackle. We're not going to fill out an entire offensive line, but we're going to give you a left tackle, the guy that we want protecting
the quarterback.
Yeah. And we're also going to give you a whole bunch of defensive players, a couple defensive ends, a defensive tackle, some corners, some linebackers, and we can't forget about special teams. We're going to have some special teamers for you, too.
They are going to be special.
So, yeah, our coaches are Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders and Brian Jordan.
On October 11th, 1992, Deion Sanders played in a game for the Falcons in Miami, then flew to Pittsburgh to play in the NLCS against the Pittsburgh Pirates. He didn't get into the game, but That's what we're talking about here. So here's to you, Brian Jordan and Deion Sanders, and also the best to ever do it, Bo Knows. We're drafting a football team, SPG. What do you want to start, offense or defense?
Let's go defense. I'm going to go defense.
Defense does win championships. All right, defensive end number 1. Who you got on the strong side? Who's going up against that left tackle?
So you talked about Deion Sanders, and this is from one of his baseball teams, from the Atlanta Braves. I got Freddie Freeman on the outside, 6'5", Freddie Freeman.
Freddie Freeman.
At defensive end. Let's throw him at right defensive end, so he's going against the left tackle. We'll throw him on the right side of that line.
All right.
Little pass rush, spin move. I could see Freddie Freeman doing that.
6'4", 225, playing left defensive end from the New York Yankees, Luke Voigt. I think the 225
Luke Voigt is a beast.
I think the 225 is selling Luke Voigt a little bit short because that dude is a beast. So I got Luke Voigt on the other defensive end.
He could definitely be an edge rusher, defensive end type, like a borderline outside linebacker, defensive end. Luke Voigt.
Luke Voigt. So Freddie Freeman and Luke Voigt guarding the outside, the edge. Who do we got in the interior? We're not going with 11 guys here or anything like that. So don't say, hey, you had 2 defensive tackles, but we're going to give you 2.
And we know these guys are not 300 pounds or 340. But there isn't some of these defensive tackles are in the NFL.
We got 2 300-pounders on the list here.
We got a couple of them.
And one of them's coming up right here. The first defensive tackle I'll take, I'm going to take Yordan Alvarez because that dude is just a monster. So Yordan Alvarez.
Of the Houston Astros. Another one of those elite young players in the game of baseball. Not to cross back over to baseball, but we mentioned Soto, and I know Alvarez kind of had I know he had a rough go of it statistically in the ALCS.
245 pounds of sheer raw man.
But what another
he's huge.
Amazing young talent, a future star. Already really was a star in the regular season.
Speaking of Yordan Alvarez, a little segue off this 7th inning stretch here. I know it's not attainable for 162 games against Yordan Alvarez, but you think they didn't figure out that he can't hit lefties? Oof. He's got some work to do this offseason. Carry on, Yordan Alvarez, but you got some work to do.
He'll get there.
He will. I'm sure he will. But lefties were uber effective. You know what wasn't effective against the Yankees in that series? Lefties. The Astros didn't carry any. How amazing is that? You want to try to wrap your head around the modern game now? That's how analytics-driven the modern game is now, that the Astros didn't even carry a left-hander. Wade Miley won like 14 games this year. He sat out the ALCS. 5 years ago, Wade Miley would have been starting game 4. Crazy, crazy, crazy times. So moving on, we got to get into the beef of our defense. Our captains on our defense. The guy.
We have another defensive tackle too.
We forgot. We can't leave him off of here.
The Panda. Pablo Sandoval. Very short for a defensive tackle at 5'11", 268 pounds.
We got to have a nose guard.
He's a bull rusher. He's like a Kyle Williams almost.
From the
Buffalo Bills great Kyle Williams.
Yeah.
It's Pablo Sandoval. The Panda.
The Panda Bear
is our other defensive tackle.
Panda Bear. Well, since we're going to move into the linebackers, all right.
Who you got?
Linebacker.
We're going to keep it going with the Bears, aren't we? Speaking of football.
Yeah. Pete Alonso. The
polar bear.
Pete Alonso. I want him in the middle of my defense. 6'3", 255 pounds. Hit some bombs this year. Loves to get rowdy. That's the guy I want. He's going to be right in the middle of my defense. So Pete Alonso, the polar bear. Hey, we got the panda bear and the polar bear.
The Bears.
Look at that.
The Bears.
You know what the weirdest part about all this is trying to pick out a team, is that all of these guys that we're picking for this defense probably wouldn't even start on a Division II football team. That's how tiny they are. We're talking about guys starting at defensive end at 6'4". You wouldn't see that in the NFL, but we're doing the best that we can with the rosters that are made available to us.
Hey, he's a beast.
Not so many big, huge guys in the middle interior lineman. That's maybe why we're only giving you one left tackle.
That's definitely why we're only given one offensive lineman. And we can go back and open this up and put Prince Fielder on there and maybe Steve Balboni or something.
Steve Balboni. How about Prince and Cecil?
There you go. There's your bookend tackles right there, or your two defensive tackles.
All right, so Pete Alonso, we got the Bears. The Bears. The polar bear and the panda bear on our defense. Who's our second linebacker?
All right, we're throwing in now. This guy is your edge rusher. This guy he's bigger than some of our defensive linemen, but we want a freaking monster. We want an animal. Ooh. We want the Franimal.
Yeah.
Franmil Reyes at 6'5", 275 pounds. I want a beast like that as my outside linebacker, my edge rusher, basically another defensive end backed up into just behind the line, ready to just pounce for some run defense, some pass rushing. Got the Franmil Reyes. Playing linebacker for the Cleveland Browns.
All right, we got to have two cornerbacks and a safety here. So
I'll build our secondary now.
Yeah, we're in the secondary. One cornerback, I'm going to have Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts, one of the best. Ball hawk, exactly. I think he'd be one of the. I think he would be an outstanding cover man. Who you got at the other corner?
Another guy I think could be an outstanding cover man. I think I just mentioned the Franimal. I think we need another Cleveland Indian.
Whoa.
To play corner for this team, and that is Francisco Lindor.
Wow.
I think he would be a heck of a cover man.
I do too.
With the quickness he has there. He'd be more of your shutdown corner.
Yeah.
And Mookie Betts is more of your
corner.
He's your ball hawk. You know, he's the guy getting you 10 interceptions a year. Francisco Lindor might only get you like 4 or 5 of them, but he is locking down your top receiver to just a couple catches every game.
Every secondary needs a captain back there that oversees the whole thing, makes good decisions, attacks when he needs to.
So who's our free safety then?
Christian Yelich.
There you go.
Every defense needs a secondary captain back there running it. And so
kind of like your it's like your outfield guy.
Good vision.
Your secondary.
He's a Gold Glove outfielder. I know he can go and get a ball. He steals 40 bags a year, so I know that he can run. And I think that he would just be back there making awesome decisions, picking which way he needs to go. And I think that he could come up and make a hit. Because if you saw that ESPN body issue, dude's kind of jacked. So
yeah, Roxanne saw it.
Oh, yeah, Roxanne. Cool it, Roxanne. Or take it easy, Rox. I forget what he said. Relax, Roxanne.
Relax, Roxanne. Yeah, come on.
Relax. But yeah, Christian Yelich. Free safety.
That's our defense.
That's the defense.
That is your defense. So you got Luke Voigt, Freddie Freeman, Yordan Alvarez, and Pablo Sandoval. Pete Alonso, Franmil Reyes, Francisco Lindor, Mookie Betts, and Christian Yelich is your baseline defense.
Over to the offensive side of the ball. Let's start with tight end. Well, there was some hemming and hawing about this.
We had to think about this one.
Because
the guy here was the player that we chose for our tight end was going to make the team no matter what.
Oh, yeah.
We just didn't know where to put him.
He might have played a more important position.
He was actually the first person that popped in my head when we decided to go through this exercise of thinking about which MLB players might be athletically suited to play football.
Well, he should be the first one that pops into everybody's mind. Standing at 6'7", 282 pounds. From the New York Yankees, Aaron Judge, playing tight end. Can you guess what position we were going to put him at? Dave, do you know what position we were going to put Aaron Judge at? Let us know. Comment below. But for right now, the obvious pick for Aaron Judge is tight end. It's the most suitable position for him. It's what he played probably in high school, I would assume. Go get the ball, kid. Here you go. Rob Gronkowski, Jimmy Graham, Aaron Judge. I think no doubt Aaron Judge could step on a football field right now and play tight end in the NFL without issue. He moves gracefully for a guy that big.
Smart, learn a playbook, learn some routes.
So, yeah, Aaron Judge, tight end. Wide receiver. This is a guy you've been high on.
Wide receiver, yeah. He's a little bit bulky for a wide receiver. Not a lot bulky, but at 6'2", 235, this is another guy who was going to make this team no matter what.
Yep.
We had to slot him in. We went back and forth between running back and receiver. We decided to put Mike Trout as one of our wide receivers. Look what he does in center field and how ridiculously athletic the guy is. I can picture him, if he was one-on-one with some guys trying to run a route, I can picture him running over guys too, catching the ball, running over guys. So, maybe
Jerry
a
Rice
hybrid.
Wasn't huge. Jerry Rice wasn't fast. Jerry Rice ran great routes, was smart, knew where to be, when to be, and he had hands of just gold.
So maybe Mike Trout is a hybrid receiver running back, but we're going to split him out wide.
No, he could be our
in this formation.
Slot back. He can be the H back. He can be the wildcat guy. He's the everything guy. But yeah, Mike Trout, wide receiver. Officially listed in your program as a wide receiver, but he can do everything. Our backup running back. I picked this guy because he's got good vision. No, wait. We need another wide receiver.
Yeah, we're still on receiver. Who you got for our second receiver?
I'm going to go with George Springer.
There you go.
Athletic, physical. I feel like that's another guy that could outrun someone. I wanted to pick Billy Hamilton here, but I don't know.
Billy Hamilton would be kind of like your John Ross, if you're familiar with the NFL, Cincinnati Bengals receiver, the guy that's one of the fastest in the league, but he can't catch a ball. He can just run fast.
I'm gonna go with I'll go with Springer. Who's starting at running back? How's that? We might as well name the starter first.
Let's do fullback first. So we got a fullback.
I forgot that we had that on there.
We had to throw a fullback, and we almost got rid of fullback, but then we thought of the perfect MLB player to put at fullback. We had to introduce that back into our lineup here, into this particular formation that we're designing this for, and that is Yasiel Puig is your starting fullback, 6'2", 240 pounds. That is a guy you want blocking for his teammates. He pretty much already does it when he goes out and brawls with the Pittsburgh Pirates. He's a guy you want running in front of you, running back. You got whoever our starter might be, following him right through the hole with Yasiel Puig leaving a trail of guys pancaked on the turf in his way.
I agree wholeheartedly with that. So, yeah, Yasiel Puig is your fullback. How about Ronald Acuna Jr., starting running back? Another guy, he's got 40 power and speed. Plays an awesome center field. I think he'd be awesome with the ball in his hands 30 times a game. Hand it to Ronald Acuna Jr. up the middle. So I'll go with Ronald Acuna.
Yeah, I like Acuna there. 6 foot 180, so he's not a big guy, but
shifty.
He reminds me of somebody who might be like a pass catching, good in PPR and fantasy football. There's your 3 up, 3 down. I think Acuna is athletically gifted enough, and we could have easily thrown him at receiver and swap him with Trout. It just depends on which play we're running. We could switch out the weapons there and try to throw the defense off by splitting Acuna out wide and having Trout come in motion and stand right behind our quarterback, who is our starting quarterback,
Jacob deGrom. You need a leader out there. You need a guy that, even if the cards aren't going your way, you're not pitching with a lead. You're not out there with a lead. You might need to, football's a funny game. And the quarterback can control when they're behind and he needs to make a drive down the field. Baseball, not so much. He can only bat in the National League. He can only bat a couple times a game, and he's got to rely on the rest of his team to get some hits for him and score some runs. But Jacob deGrom, that's the guy. That's the guy. If you think about it,
he's got the height
all
for
the
it.
adversity.
He's 6'4". He's a little frail, but hey, there's a ratio here, right? Like we said,
Jacob deGrom.
There are no 350 pounders on our line.
He plays for the Mets, and he still goes out and does great. I mean, it's really tough to play for that franchise.
He could kind of be like your
fooling, of course.
He could be your Matt Ryan. Jacob deGrom seems like he would be the Matt Ryan.
I think Jacob deGrom would be
scenario.
an awesome quarterback. Who's sitting on the bench? We got two guys on the bench. Well, no, first we got to have a left tackle.
Yeah. So
who's protecting
deGrom's
Jacob
only
deGrom?
180 pounds, so he needs some protection. So
who better than the heaviest man in Major League Baseball?
And a guy that is known for protecting his teammates. We're still going to count him as an active player here. CC Sabathia.
CC, left tackle.
Is our anchor lineman at left tackle, protecting the blind side.
300 pounds of CC Sabathia, protecting the blind side. He is Michael Orr. If Michael Orr could throw 86, he'd still be pitching today. So protecting the blind side, Mr. Sabathia. That's what I could imagine CC doing that. That's just the type of guy
protecting his
he is.
teammate.
Absolutely. We got two guys on the bench. We need a backup quarterback because we know how the NFL is. And you're only as good as your backup quarterback.
And we want a veteran
right?
guy. We want a veteran arm as our backup quarterback, a guy that's been around, who's been accomplished. Maybe he slides into a backup role and becomes, one of the better backups in the league and good insurance in case Jacob deGrom's frail 180-pound frame gets broken over the course of a season, like Matt Ryan's ankle was just injured. So deGrom gets hurt. Who are we bringing in? Who are we bringing in to finish the game and then start the rest of the season potentially if deGrom goes down?
We're bringing in a guy that has to have presence, obviously. Be able to fire his teammates up. But he's got to have control. Even when he gives up a couple runs or throws a pick, he's got to have control over the game. Got to be a guy that can bring you a long way. You might need him for a couple weeks. It's Max Scherzer. I want Mad Max. That's my guy. Maybe not nimble enough to be my starting quarterback right now, but he can go out there and he can be a serviceable backup. So Jacob deGrom, that's our starter, but Mad Max, he's sitting on the bench waiting to come in. Put me in, coach.
I like it. 6'3", 215. It's about a quarterback.
We gotta
size
have
right
you
there.
gotta have your third down running back or your secondary running back, and I want Javi Baez for that.
There you go,
Javi Baez, because he's got good vision. That guy doesn't have to look; he can make plays like that.
Good on screen passes, I bet.
Yeah, that's the guy. So that's the offense.
Special teams. That's all we got left. We got two special teamers.
I'm throwing in a third one, but we'll do the first two, and then I'll tell you what my third one's going to be.
We've got three special teamers.
Kick returner. Who's returning kicks?
So our kick returner is Trey Turner, the kick returner.
Yeah.
It's fast.
Kick returner.
He's fast. You get him going with a little bit of speed, coming punt returning or kick returning, and he can blow straight through that whole punt or kick coverage team all the way to the end zone. I think he's a Pro Bowler at kick and punt returning. Trey Turner, the kick returner.
Turner. All right. We got a kicker. I don't know who can kick in Major League Baseball. If it's not Paul O'Neill kicking the ball, that's the only guy I know kicking, right? Or the guy in the Korean League that somebody charged the mound and he kicked him. You remember that?
I do.
Those are the kicks in baseball. And then there was another video from the minor leagues, maybe, of a guy that karate kicked the catcher, too. Yeah, forgot about that one. Only kicks I've ever seen in Major League or in baseball, though. So I don't know who can kick, but I know who can do a lot of stuff that you wouldn't expect. Can do all this stuff. He can play center field one day. He can pitch the next day. He can hit you a home run.
And not just
get you
pitch.
a save.
He can be your setup man.
Absolutely.
He can get you a save. Like you said, he can hit the game-winning hit, game-winning RBI in extra innings. He can get a game-winning home run. He does
and
pretty
start
much
center
everything.
Field the next day.
So I bet you he can kick. He can do everything else.
I can bet you that Michael Lorenzen can kick. And so that's the guy I want kicking, Michael Lorenzen. At least that's the guy I'd give him the first shot. Hey, Michael, can you kick? And I bet you he says yes. I'll bet you. So Michael Lorenzen. And I'm going to add in one more.
He's our kicker and our punter. We'll say that.
Every team needs like that headhunter. Like the guy that goes down to catch up to a Michael Lorenzen. The gunner. The guy running down the kick returner. I want Amir Garrett.
Yeah, there you go.
That's it. I had to get Amir Garrett on this team in some capacity, and that's it.
He could have been the kicker too, but we'll make him our gunner on special teams.
All right. So Dave dropping some facts here. Adam Wainwright was apparently an all-region kicker in high school.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. Scored 4 touchdowns against Polk High.
All right, he's our kicker. Lorenzen's our punter. How about that? Dave, you just changed our lineup. That is a great point, and we will take that into account. Officially, Adam Wainwright is our kicker.
Hey, kid, can he kick? Yeah, I can. Okay, perfect. Listen, Morton Anderson, wasn't that his name? Gary Anderson, one of them.
There's both of them. There's two Andersons.
And they both kicked for a long time, right?
They did.
All right.
Decades.
It's been done. Adam Wainwright might have found his next career. Although I don't know if he's going to hit one for 66 yards, as we saw happen this weekend. 66 yards.
Bet you Lorenzen can.
I bet you Lorenzen can do anything.
He can do anything.
That's a new segment for next season.
And a couple more names on our injured reserve list out for the season because they are always injured.
Yes.
Dylan Betances, John Carlos Stanton, and Thor.
That's
Noah Syndergaard.
It's like 20 feet of human right there. 21 feet of human.
Injured reserve.
On the injured reserve. So that's it. It's a seventh inning stretch. It's our football team. I don't know. That was pretty fun. They'd get crushed, though. They would get crushed in the NFL.
Oh, absolutely, they would.
There's some big guys.
It's fun to think about, though. Like you said, it's a fun exercise, and we didn't come up with that until we got to the studio today. That was one of the reasons why we were on the air a little later than we'd planned, because we had to fine-tune our football roster of baseball players, our team Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders, Brian Jordan, if you will.
That's right.
And a shout-out, too, to some NFL players with a baseball background. Kyler Murray, Patrick Mahomes.
Russell
Wilson, another one. So shout out to those guys, too.
That's right. And also a big shout out. We want to give a shout out to one of our sponsors here at the D. That's Utica Hemp Company. Are you tired of living in pain? Are you taking medication that might not be working for you? Look into a natural, safe alternative in CBD. And you can get it at Utica Hemp. Improve your quality of life with everything from oil, full spectrum, and THC-free topicals, CBD flowers. They got dog treats, everything down there. So go check out our boy Joe Sweet down there at Utica Hemp Company and see if maybe he can help alleviate some of your pain. You can visit them at uticahemp.com or uticahempco.com or stop into one of their 4 locations in Utica, Herkimer, New Hartford, and Clinton. And you can speak to their knowledgeable staff about everything to do with CBD. Go check them out, our boys. Also, big sponsor, the D, Nye Volkswagen in Rome. You can stop into the showroom at 5865 Taberg Road in Rome and see why all their customers say they love their Nye VW. You mentioned Disruption Network or the Baseline or any of the shows on our network here. You tell them about the D, and they're going to give you $250 off any purchase. You can check out their inventory at nyvwofrome.com.
Shout out to Saranac, too, one of the great sponsors here in Utica Coffee. Cheers. We love all our sponsors here at the D.
Loving it. Loving it. We're almost wrapped up with another season here, SPG. Season 2 is almost in the books. A couple more shows here winding down. But now it's time to get to the place you don't want to be. You're going to find yourself out of the baseline. You don't want to be there. And right now, some of our fellow, I don't even want to call them our brothers in arms because that's lowering us to an all-new level. There is some strange stuff afoot in the Bronx, and it doesn't belong. Video surfacing of people, fans, if they want to call themselves fans, at Yankee Stadium, throwing things at opposing teams' fans. The bathroom video was just as stupid and obscene to me. Yankee fans, you already got a bad enough reputation. And you're giving 2 Yankee fans sitting here a bad reputation.
Yeah, it's embarrassing.
Just by being Yankee fans.
And I don't like blanket statements. That's all I'll say about that. But I do not like people acting like complete idiots.
Not in any stadium.
Wearing the same hat and jersey is the players on my favorite team that are on that field. That there is no place in any sport,
and I want to be
in any facet of life at all. This goes beyond sports.
I think that
there is no excuse.
This warrants me being specific, though. I get that things are taboo to speak about and yell at a player. I get that there are taboo things. That's not even really what I'm talking about. Heckling happens. It's a part of the game. Players,
it really is part of America's
really
pastime.
Just tune it out. And I'm not saying that fans should cross the line either. I'm not.
No, absolutely not. Fans should not throw things on the field.
All right, but I heard about they're criticizing Greinke's anxiety,
and fans should not comment about medical conditions or anything that personal with a player. I mean, that is taboo. I mean, that is a line that should not be crossed, and it's embarrassing when fans, and I say fans loosely, supporters of your favorite team go out there and do that, and you see news articles saying, that these types of things happen, and most of all, it's awful for Greinke, and I hate to see it. I'll just leave it at that. It's awful, and fans throwing things on the field too. At one point, I'll throw that in there. Although that is not nearly as serious as chanting things about Greinke's anxiety.
And throwing things at fans in the bathrooms, and throwing things at fans walking up. Although that guy was being escorted out. I don't know if he was being escorted out for his own safety. I don't know the story behind that, but the guy walking up from the front row all the way up and then stopping, and he was flipping the bird, which I'll tell you what, if I was already bearing the brunt of a crowd and getting stuff chucked at me, I'd probably do the same thing that Houston Astros fan did.
Yeah, I would be too.
I probably would stand there and take it with my fingers up in the air too. And I don't blame him. Yankee fans, vile and disgusting, and you're giving guys like, Paul Simon and, I don't know, Billy Crystal, guys that love the sport, and it's almost to a point where you're not allowed to like the Yankees. You almost have to go through a quiz as a Yankee fan to people when they say, do you like baseball? And not people around here, because obviously there's a lot of Yankee fans around here, but just in general, on the internet, if you will. Okay? You almost have to explain to people, yes, I'm a Yankee fan, but I'm also a baseball fan too. You almost have to tell somebody you're a Cincinnati Reds fan, you're probably a baseball fan, right? you tell someone you're a St. Louis Cardinals fan, you're probably a baseball fan. Tell somebody you're a Dodger fan, you might be a casual fan. Might not be, right? There's different levels of fandom that come with. Most people don't just say, I'm a diehard Cincinnati Reds fan and then don't like baseball. But there's so many Yankee fans out there that are, they'll wear the stuff and they'll go to the games, but they could care less. It's just a status thing. and they're weighing
Yeah,
all of these other Yankee fans down.
It's a shame because that one night in particular, you figure when this happened, it's such a small percentage of people, but again, it's the vocal minority that gets the attention, and there were tens of thousands of Yankees fans at that ballpark that night, and the vast majority of them are most likely, pretty respectful fans, but it's a shame. Number one, of course, that it happened, and no excuse. But number two, the fact that it's a black eye for a fan base when you have some legit fans there, and you have some idiots. There are idiots in every fan base. Maybe there are more idiots among the Yankees fan base. I don't know, but it's a shame. Regardless, makes a whole fan base look bad, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah,
that strikes a nerve with me. Ask Dave.
Really, the only fan base that can't talk about the Yankees fan base at this point in time is the Dodgers fan base, because their fan base literally killed a guy. So that's it.
Oh, Phillies fans are pretty rough.
Yeah, pretty bad. But no, that's a
they
black.
Didn't kill a
That's
guy
a black
that I know
eye
of,
on.
but who knows?
It's a black eye on this postseason for that stadium and for that fan base that was there. It's a black eye.
So out of the baseline, those fans that stooped low and did that stuff to tarnish what was a really fun playoff series, despite the outcome from our standpoint.
Couple plays that series definitely goes to 7 games. It was a good series, and that's a black eye on it. It's a stain, and there's just no place for it. Who else is out of the baseline?
So this one, the Houston Astros are. This one is tied into their franchise, so we have an out of the baseline Yankees related, and a Houston Astros out of the baseline, and that is to their assistant general manager, Brandon Taubman, who during the celebration after the ALCS victory, he ended up having an outburst at a group of female reporters that were standing there covering the winning game, the game 6 of the ALCS. And he started going into an outburst, yelling at them about, thank God we got Osuna, thank bleeping God we got Osuna, to a group of female reporters. Now, Roberto Osuna had gone out, and what he did in that game was he gave up a game-tying home run to DJ LeMahieu in the 9th inning. So it's not like, thank God we got Osuna, he saved our butts this game. He almost could have cost them the series in that game. And the obvious thing that he was alluding to was Osuna's issues last year with the assault allegations from his ex-girlfriend, I believe. Those allegations ended up getting dropped because she moved to Mexico and didn't want anything to do with it anymore. So obviously, his trade value was very low. Houston gets him at a bargain price. He goes there, solidifies their bullpen, and here they are in the World Series. Now, this Houston Astros staffer makes a scene out of this whole thing, and it's pretty clear what his intent was. And it got so bad that other Astros staff nearby had to kind of break this up and apologized to these female reporters. Now, as awful as that is, the statement that the Houston Astros put out following that was just an absolute embarrassment of, forget about it, it's nothing, is all that was. And I don't have it verbatim in front of me. Perhaps Dave can copy and paste that. I don't even feel like looking it up. I'm so disgusted. You're out of the baseline, especially Taubman. We already threw Osuna out last year. But also to how the organization handled that, basically as a, hey, we're trying to forget about that. Let's don't worry about it. Not a big deal, everybody. So you're out of here, Taubman, in the Astros PR department for how despicable you are with how you handled that. So want me to tell you how I really feel about it?
That's funny. That's not very good. Right.
I'll also add in there, go Nationals.
So it's at tip of the cap time. Who you got?
Tip of the cap. I'm going to give a tip of the cap to Juan Soto for being a 20-year-old producing in the World Series. He's doing things that have not done since Andrew Jones way back in 1996, and he was 19, playing for the Braves against the Yankees. Became the youngest player since Jones 23 years ago to hit a home run in the World Series yesterday. So I give a tip of the cap to what Juan Soto has been doing this postseason. We'll see if he keeps it up. He's got a little ways to go here, but he's looking like one of the potential candidates to be named, depending on which team wins, an MVP. He is a potential MVP of this series, certainly. So tip of the cap to Juan Soto for the performance he has put up as a 20-year-old this postseason, and especially in Game 1 of the World Series. Hitting the train. Tip of the cap for hitting the train.
I'm going to give my tip of the shockingly. I'm going to give a tip of the cap to Brett Gardner. After Jose Altuve's home run hit off the wall, it bounced back into the field of play. To be picked up by Brett Gardner as Houston's backup bullpen catcher, was running across the field to go join the rest of his teammates. Brett Gardner stopped him, gave him the ball, and told him that they were a good team and to go represent the American League well in the World Series.
That is a tip of the cap.
That was a class move by Brett.
Handed the ball to the bullpen as they're running in to celebrate with their teammates.
Awesome. So tip of the cap, Brett Gardner. Tip of the cap to the 2019 season, because by the time we do our next show, the World Series will be over. Who do you got, SPG?
Well, I want to tip my cap to Verlander for setting the record today, strikeouts in the postseason and passing John Smoltz. Please continue to get that guy's name out of the record books, because I can tell you, I really have. I
liked him too.
I used to like him too, and then he went to the Red Sox, and it was all downhill from there. But seriously, yeah, tip of the cap for Verlander for what he is doing. I know he gave up 2 runs in the first inning today, but we still have a 2-2 game in the bottom of the 6th inning. Verlander still in the game. Strasburg still in the game. These 2 aces giving up 2 runs in the first inning. There are 2 guys on base, by the way, for Houston. Carlos Correa at the plate with 1 out in the bottom of the 6th. But we still have a tie game in Game 2. So tip of the cap to these teams. And, I mentioned Soto. Tip of the cap to the Washington Nationals for getting to the World Series for the first time in franchise history, even going back to the Montreal days. Leaving the Seattle Mariners as the only team in the major leagues that have never reached a World Series.
We're good, streaky! Yeah!
The streak continues for the Seattle Mariners.
So now that the Yankees are out of it, I just want to see a really, really good World Series, and then, of course, ending with a Nationals win.
So you got the Nationals?
That's all I got.
I'm going to take the Nationals, too. Let's go Nats.
Oh, as far as predictions go, it's tough. So, yeah, the Nationals have been spotted a game, but it is tied right now with a couple Astros on base. So this is kind of a good spot to where it's kind of almost even-ish to pick it. Yeah, sure, it is 1-0 in the series, but I'm going to say Nationals in 7. And that is no disrespect to the Houston Astros, the team that they have assembled, because I think it's ridiculous. But I think if the Nationals can win this game, they obviously, and of course statistically, have an excellent shot at winning this, having gone through Cole and Verlander in 2 games. If they can win those 2 games, wow, what a spot to be in. So, yeah, I want to say Nationals in 7 games.
I agree.
Not a true prediction.
Nats
because
in 7.
Not a true start of the World Series prediction, but from this point on, I think that's, and I would like to see that. I hope it does end up that way.
I don't know. I think we got a good shot at it.
Sean Doolittle getting the save in Game 7. Look at the two closers here. We got Roberto Osuna and we got Sean Doolittle, who is one of the best guys in baseball. Do a little bit of research on Doolittle and the charity work and all the community involvement both he and his wife have.
You can't stop him.
Can't stop him. We can only hope to contain him. So, go Nats. This is going to be the last, like you said, the last time we have baseball in the season while we're talking. Because we'll be back. The season's not over yet. We're going to be talking off season. We're going to do a World Series recap here with our next show. At least one more show, maybe two. We'll see. We're going to do a little off-season preview, and, of course, we'll be talking awards here.
The road to the winter meetings coming up here.
Road to the winter meetings.
That's it.
It's going to be here soon. It's not too far off. And then if last season was any indication, it'll be 5 months before there's any transactions made.
Let's hope not. Let's hope not. I want to see some action this year. But until then, enjoy the World Series, everybody. Keep it inside the baseline. SPG, I'm JP. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you. Peace.
We're out.
So you just bought your dream home, and now it's time to move. Let's face it, nobody likes to move. All the packing, unpacking, lifting, upstairs, downstairs, and broking everything, including your back. Let the professionals at EJA Moving Company take all the stress and pain out of your move. Competitively priced moving, relocation services, office moves, and complete packing and unpacking services. They work with everybody to make it simple and easy for you to move and relocate. Call EJA Moving Company at 315-335-0516. When it's time to relocate, have EJA Moving do all the work for you. Hit them up online, ejamoving.com.
Hey, Disruption Network. This is Mike Sacco, the general manager at Nye Volkswagen of Rome. If you don't know me by name, it's only because you have not received the best deal. There's only one reason to leave Utica, and that's to come see me in Rome and get the best deal on your next new, pre-owned, or certified VW. Mention that you heard this ad from Disruption Network and receive $250 off your next vehicle purchase. You'll know why our customers say, I love my Nye VW. Come see us at 5865 Rome Taberg Road in Rome or visit us online at nyvwofrome.com.
Want to know what's going on at the D? Hit up DisruptionNetwork.net and check out our events calendar brought to you by the Events Co. Find out about upcoming guests, special events, concerts, show schedules, community activities, and more. Get connected at DisruptionNetwork.net.